These loved ones never had a chance. They were in flying coffins as a result of Boeing deciding that it was going to conceal MCAS from the pilots.
You knew in 2016 that this was happening, and your team at Boeing decided we didn't need to fix that.
346 people are dead because what these chief pilots described as egregious and crazy.
Welcome back. That was just a bit of the emotional hearing today as senators grilled Boeing's CEO on the 737 MAX aircraft and the software blame for 2 fatal crashes. Back with me now, Ruth Marcus, Matt Gorman, Kimberly Atkins. You know, Ruth, we were talking about today, if you're the Boeing CEO, you didn't enjoy it, Capitol Hill, but you look at the headlines today and it's all impeachment. Frankly, it's probably, I don't know if it's good or bad for Boeing that there isn't a public spectacle of him getting grilled.
Well, it's
actually,
good.
I don't know if this is good.
It might not be good for Boeing long term.
Right. I don't think it's good.
Not to have that heat, but the Boeing CEO is clearly breathing a sigh of relief. And we need to sort of stop and ask ourselves, as we the media, as we go through the impeachment and we're all clustered like the Pee Wee soccer team around that ball, what else is going on? What else is going on Capitol Hill?
Pee Wee soccer team. That was really good.
I watched a lot of that soccer.
That is very good. It is so Pee Wee soccer. Absolutely. They all stand around the ball.
Have this instinct, right?
Yeah.
But important things are going on elsewhere on the Hill. Important things are going on in government, in agencies and departments that we're not covering. We need to discipline ourselves and somehow find the ability to walk and chew gum at the same time.
And Kimberly,
while we're playing Pee Wee soccer.
Kimberly, let me play the Boeing CEO apology here. But to me, there's a missing person from this exercise of us grilling, and I'm going to talk about it on the other side. But in fairness, let's get the CEO response to the grilling.
We are sorry, deeply and truly sorry. We are responsible for our airplanes. We are responsible, and we own that, regardless of cause. Any accident with one of our airplanes is unacceptable.
We're grilling Boeing. Boeing's apologizing. Where's the FAA?
Yeah.
Shouldn't Congress, it's easy to pick on the company, right, I think, in this case. Much harder to pick on the regulatory agency that decided to olay Boeing through this. Boeing should be held accountable, but so should the FAA.
You're absolutely right. Boeing could not do it on its own. And yes, that was a missing piece there today. But I think it is important for the CEO of Boeing to stand as the face of the company and accept responsibility. I mean, keep in mind, this is something that gets to the core. There are some issues that people don't understand. It's intangible. Flying, going through safety, going through all the things, taking off your shoes and making sure that you are safe on that airline is something that just about everybody can relate to. And it's something that's a core function that we think of the government being in charge of, protecting people from.
And this is something, I want to go back to something Ruth said, Matt, and I'm surprised if I were at the Trump White House, this story would actually petrify me as much as impeachment for this reason. The FAA, we own the FAA, type of thing. This meaning the Trump White House, right? It's his agents, meaning that he's appointing these folks. This could be on them. They should be just as angry. Somebody at the White House, and yet they've washed their hands of this.
There's benefits to going on offense with this, and you're right. You're the first person to talk about the FAA that I've heard in this whole thing. It's all about Boeing.
That's
entirely
what I don't get.
about Boeing. And
somebody let them do it.
Exactly, and this wasn't even the biggest story in a quarter-mile radius of the Capitol Hill today. I mean, and I think this type of topic is insatiable news consumption, or it was in the past before Trump. We had a year of the Malaysia airline, and we had a live stream essentially of the BP oil spill at the bottom of the screen. So in theory, this should be leading every news channel, but it's not. And you're right. I think the Trump White House would benefit from going on offense with that.
This is the story.
And it's not even the only story that's like this. You had Mark Zuckerberg last week testifying about the invasion of privacy and not vetting ads. You had the head of CMS talking about people losing their Medicaid coverage. There are stories like this happening consistently every day on the Hill.
The White House should be scared of going on offense about Boeing, because my understanding is that it was a change change. I think it was a regulatory change, not a legislative change, but I might be wrong about that. That allowed Boeing to basically self-certify, hey, planes are good.
They let them do
go.
it, right?
Yeah. So that's companies need to police themselves, but we have government to help police companies. And that's what really went wrong here.
This is why I'm saying they need to take control of it before it controls them.
But you know what, though? Where are the Democratic 2020 presidential candidates saying exactly what you said? Because let's face it, we haven't talked about 2020 at all, and this would be the block of every other show if it wasn't for impeachment in theory. Why isn't one of them taking the mantle of this?
Ruth, I don't know. That's a great question. I have seen they struggle sometimes to get on. Look, some of the campaigns don't want to follow the news. I've noticed that. They want to follow their own path.
Right. But they seem to be locked in this endless fight and battle and discussion over one thing, which is important but not the only thing, which is Medicare for all, and how we're going to pay for it. And they just are wrapped up in, I'll just go back to Pee Wee soccer. That's their Pee Wee soccer game over there. When there actually are, Elizabeth Warren, I have to say, does have plans for lots of different things. Right. I don't know if she has a plan for that.
But what's the number one complaint? I'm sure all of you, I can tell you the number one complaint I get from just sort of average viewers outside of Washington when you go, which is, can you guys cover other stories? Mm-hmm. And I think politicians are going to get punished for not focusing on the bread and butter issues, and keeping airplanes aloft is a bread and butter issue.
Yeah.
And anyway, today befuddled me. Look, the lawmakers did, but again.
It's part of a broader thing, right? Deregulation of government leads to a lot of consequences.
That's a larger debate.
Talking about that
you would assume the presidential campaign on Earth, too, is having an interesting conversation about. Ruth, Matt, and Kimberly, thank you very much. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.